Hello and welcome to Season 5, Episode 21 of Logicast, the AWS News Podcast brought to you by Logicata. I'm Carl Robinson, CEO and co-founder of Logicata, and I'm joined today, as always, by no longer campervan enthusiast, now campervan owner, principal cloud engineer, John Goodall. How are you doing today, John?
I'm damp. Well, not quite. We're quite early in the morning for us, and I got back from the school run, and then the heavens just opened, like literally get in the door. So I'm happy with that because I'm not soppy wet. But yes, I feel poor.
A damper
no, a damper van. No. You see, I buy nice things, unlike your car. It might be a little bit old. I say old. It's old by car standards because it's 10, but for a VW Cali with a big diesel engine, that's basically new still. It's fine.
So it's still fossil fuel powered then? You're not going hybrid or anything?
Good grief, no.
Saving the planet with your recent
No, I have a 2-litre bi-turbo diesel.
Yeah, pretty bad on the old emissions. I guess the road tax is on that.
Yeah, that was quite funny actually. It was £315 a year. I just about cut off the change that they made because it's a 66 plate and 17 plates then have an emissions based one. I don't. I have a size based one still. So because it's a 2-litre and it's a diesel, I paid £315 a year. What was quite funny about this was yesterday in the post, because obviously in the UK for non-British listeners, your road fund, your vehicle excise duty, as it's called, formerly road tax, but it's not. There's no such thing as road tax anymore, says the cyclists. It doesn't transfer with vehicles anymore, right? So you buy the new one and you get a refund on the old one, but it's only in complete months. However, they print the "you must buy your next year's tax" about 6 weeks ahead of time. So yesterday I got my road tax reminder and my refund at the same time for the last car. Like, would you like to buy your year's road tax? No, you wouldn't, because here's a month's money back.
Well, they can't call it road tax anymore because clearly no money is being spent on the roads. They are as us cyclists feel only too often. Although cyclists do pay road tax as well, not for their bicycles. Most of them also own cars and or motorbikes. So yes. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the state of British roads or road tax in campervans. We're here to talk about AWS news, and we're delighted to be joined again by Jason Wood from the other end of the earth, fellow AWS community builder, user group leader, and AWS ambassador. How are you doing today, Jason?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Good. Surprisingly, no jet lag because I've just gotten back from Ambassador Summit in Seattle. Which was my first time and super awesome.
Is that almost completely off your time zone?
Yeah. Australia is 17 hours ahead of Seattle. So I think I had to fly in via San Fran, but I left home at just before 11 a.m. and got into San Fran at 7:30 a.m.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been anywhere with that much of a time difference. Because I think even if we go to, I've never been to Australia, but even if we go to Australia, it's only like 12 hours difference for us. So
I mean, that's what you get when you invent time.
Yeah. So did you have your jet lag in Seattle?
Yeah, that was that was a bit harsh. And especially unlike like reInvent or summits where you're walking around all the time, the Ambassador Summit, you sit in a room with lots of sessions, and so a lot of those were like, but I wasn't the only one. There are a lot of people that were suffering jet lag. So yes, but it was awesome.
So apart from being an ambassador, tell us what else you do, Jason, for the AWS community.
Yeah, so I am community builder, obviously, but I'm also the user group leader for the Melbourne AWS user group. So we've been going for over 10 years. I think this month is number 159. So
a good innings.
Yeah, and yeah, we run monthly, so that's except for December. So yeah, that is they've been running for a while. So that, and yeah, I'm an ambassador, so means I work for a partner, work for a consultancy called Versent in Australia in the managed services space.
Cool. And have you just renewed your community builder status as well?
I have indeed. So I think this is year 4 for me.
Yeah, same for me. I'm just looking at the badges that I've got down here on my desk. I've not managed to do anything with those yet. They're just sitting there, a little pile of badges on my desk.
I can't bring myself to commit to put them on something.
Yeah, because then you might not want the thing anymore, and then you've lost the badges. So maybe find a way to pin them on or something like that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, Wonderweb or something, iron them on, but you can't really iron them on a rucksack, can you? And they might fall off, so they're just in a box.
Then you lose them, yeah. Now, mine are not in a box, they're on my desk, very visible to only me.
Just start getting tats down your arm.
There's the number 2. Tattoos would be an option.
Just go into your local tattoo shop and here, tap this on my arm and just...
Maybe they'll do them for free next year at reInvent this year, because that was a thing, wasn't it? It was free tattoos if you had a bit of flash, I think. You just have a freebie.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure I want to ink myself with my AWS community credentials, but
it just across the top of the chest. No.
Well, the thing is, you wouldn't know where to start and finish because I like symmetry, and I don't know how long I'm going to be in the program, so you can't move them once you've put them on, can you? So it's
owned by Jeff.
Exactly. Yeah. Literally branded. Anyway, we're not here to talk about camper vans and AWS tattoos. We are here to talk about AWS news. So, as regular listeners to the podcast will know, once a week I curate a list of AWS news. I didn't last week because I had a holiday. Rare, but it does happen occasionally. But once a week I curate a list of AWS news via my weekly AWS News Roundup newsletter. So this week's news is, of course, about a week late. But then John selects some of the articles that we'd like to talk about with our guests. So we have, of course, shared a selection of articles with Jason that we'd like to talk about today. And the first of those articles is an article on Security Boulevard, comparing EC2 T2 instances versus T3 instances from a cost and performance basis. So obviously, as new instance families are launched, generally AWS will claim that they offer a better price performance ratio to the previous generation. So some people, like the folks at Security Boulevard, like to test this. So that's what this article runs through. So John, what was it that caught your eye about this particular article?
This has been done to death now, I guess. Like T3 has been around for I don't know how long, right? If you're talking T4Gs or if a new T5 style had come out or whatever, then I'd be interested, right? But T3 came out, what, 4-5 years ago? Like a while, to the extent that we're on. Yeah, to the extent that the non-T instances, kind of your non-bursting instances, your M's and your C's and what have you, are on generation somewhere between 6 and 8, depending on the flavor, right? So isn't this already well trodden? Okay, maybe you haven't seen any of the 10 million other articles doing this, and it's worth a quick read. But the point is anyone actually still using T2? I doubt it. And if you are, stop it. Just stop it. The only minor caveat I will make to that is, for reasons that don't make sense, the old free tier, which also now doesn't exist, so this is less relevant, still gave you 1 T2 micro a month for free for a whole year. It was 730 hours of T2 micro for the first 12 months, right? But that tier doesn't exist anymore either, so that also doesn't exist. So I'm just waiting to see when T2 gets killed, to be really honest.
Yeah, maybe that's what's driving the article. Maybe the author knows something that we don't, or maybe it's on the product lifecycle page. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, well, some people just don't move for various reasons. Got a customer that still has a couple of Windows 2003 servers. Yeah, pity me. So yeah, so some of them just need a bit of a kick. And sometimes when they're just running, they don't care. They're running and they're happy, and it doesn't cost them a lot. But yeah,
it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, but as the article said, like it doesn't take much to change an instance type. Yep, shut it down, flick a switch, turn it back on again. You're good.
Yeah, the only challenge with that, of course, is for workloads that you can't actually shut things down, is that you end up stuck because it takes a couple of minutes. We've done this not for a long time, actually, but a client that we used to have, we did this a handful of times before we moved them from T2 size instances to T3 ones, right? And we had to do them. There was a pool of about half a dozen of them. We had to do them one at a time. We had to give them plenty of notice. We had to train load balancers, and it was just a real pain. And that was only 5 instances or 6 instances or whatever it happened to be. If you couldn't load balance across that, even if they were static instances, there was still a pool of them. They weren't auto scaling, but they were still, more than one. It was doable. If you didn't have that set up, then I guess you could actually be stuck outside of a maintenance window. And in theory, it takes 5 minutes, right? Because there's a couple of minutes to shut down, 30 seconds to change the instance type of the console, and a couple of minutes to turn back on again. I had an instance, not with T series, admittedly, with a slightly more esoteric type. I think it was a C6IN. I changed from a T series to one of those, and it went, no, don't have any of that. Sorry, can't have that one. Oh, and so that could be a real problem. I've never seen that happen on the T series before, but I have seen it on the more esoteric types. So I guess that's why people are kind of stuck, is because it's still working. You physically can't turn it off because your maintenance window is 2 o'clock in the morning and your SRE is going, no. Or you just don't want to run the risk of not being able to find a new instance type when it comes back on again. The challenge you've got, of course, is every so often, if you have these pet servers, and this has been the thing since day one, right? It's cattle, not pets. But if you have these pet servers that everyone does still seem to have, every so often Amazon will actually just tell you, sorry, you're going to have to bounce that now because I need to do something with the hardware underneath. Sorry. So do it then, maybe, if you're going to have to do it anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
Surely people are patching these things, though. Could you not do it
It doesn't work like that because reboots are soft reboots at the operating system layer. They don't shut all the way down at the hypervisor layer. And again, the cloud is just, there's no computers at all. There's plenty of them, and you actually still have to be aware of them when you start getting into the fundamentals. So if you do a patch and a patch reboot, yes, but that doesn't move any of the underlying kit. It doesn't reprovision it anywhere else. It doesn't give you enough time to turn it off and back on again because it has to be in a stopped state for both of those things. And a patch reboot is just an OS reboot. It will just go down and then back up again.
Upgrade at the next outage, maybe. If it goes down, we'll do it then. We'll bring it back up on new kit. So. It's a new upgrade policy.
I mean, the other option, of course, is take a snapshot of it and then do the AMI migration mucking around thing. But, you really should stop the disk from running for doing that. Yeah, but that's like a millisecond interrupt whilst it just coalesces the disk. So you could probably hide that somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. If you're stuck on T2s, you probably shouldn't be. Figure out how you're going to get yourself to T3, whether it's implement my upgrade at next outage policy or something a little bit more robust. Is
that like the inverted scream test? People are screaming already, so let's just do it.
Exactly. We're already down. We can't bring this app down, but it's already down. So if it's already down, let's bring it back in an upgraded state. So. Anyway,
this is recorded, isn't it? I'm going to make a note of that as a formal policy update.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's do very quick change request.
Yeah. Retrospective change request. Yeah. This change happened. Here's the change request, backdated. So, let's move on to our second article this week. And this is an article on InfoQ by Renato Lozio, previous guest on the podcast, AWS Hero. This is all about AWS MCP server reaching general availability with full API coverage and IAM-based governance. So we've spoken a lot about MCP servers. I think it was probably only about 3 months, John, since you didn't really know much about them yourself, and now we're using them day in, day out. So it's amazing how much.
I think it was 6. I think it was more like
maybe
6.
Maybe I do remember talking about them on the podcast, and it's sort of what the hell is this MCP thing? And now we're all using them day in, day out. So
yeah,
the technology
it was
is marching on.
Last year, I think, that I kind of saw the light, had the awakening, did a couple of sessions on that. Kiro was not quite GA, and I got to play with that ahead of time and just went,
got your coin.
Yes, I got that was in the session before. That was and I won by like 30 points out of 30,000 or something. It was a really close one.
Is that still on your desk within reach for showing? Or
yes, it is. And what's even funnier is Q Developer is going by the wayside now. So I mean, these were already hard to get because there was only a few dozen of them, and now it's completely retro.
Value could have gone from $10 to $20 overnight.
I did look into actually how expensive challenge coins are to make, and they cost a fortune.
Yeah. I have a few.
Nice. What are yours? What challenges did you succeed in?
Well, I am also in the 51st Legion Star Wars costuming guild, and so we have all sorts of challenge coins just for celebrate various things, show our garrisons, our squads, trade with others. So yeah, it's more just
so where's the
buy them for trade and actually TIE Fighter.
So anyway, let's talk about MCP servers, John. I think you know a bit more about them now, and we're using this one ourselves. So tell us a bit more about the AWS MCP server.
Well, this is a funny one because over the last 6 months or so, Amazon went absolutely balmy for this, that, and the other MCP, right? There was a diagrams one and a pricing one and a docs one and a cloud formation one and a this and a that and the other. And what they seem to have done is they've killed a lot of them and coalesced them behind one MCP and the agent toolkit, which, so far as I could work out, is more of a gating strategy. It's a front door. You go through this one MCP, and then that one tells your agent via the agent toolkit, here's how you talk to everything else within the ecosystem, as opposed to having to go, I should use the diagrams MCP, which, side note, that was really good, and I'm really pissed off that it doesn't exist as a standalone anymore, because that was phenomenal, and now I have to go do my diagrams manually again because it's crap at them again. But that was just a nice 3 months where I didn't have to do any side sort of hand-drawn diagrams, but there we go. But yeah, that's kind of the update, effectively, is we've gone from this smorgasbord, which is a great word, of various MCPs doing various things, and your agent having to work out which one to use, or you having to tell it, go check the pricing MCP, to one, and the agent toolkit doing a lot of that for you. I think the pricing MCP still exists, but a lot of the rest of them have been killed off now.
So the diagram functionality is not within the agent toolkit then?
Not for Kiro that I found, weirdly. If you try and pull that particular one, because it works as a Docker image, then it says this has been replaced by this Claude skill. Like, I don't use Claude, though.
What about yourself, Jason? Are you using this?
Yeah, well, more the point, I was using a lot of the other individual ones, which was awesome. Like AWS Labs GitHub repo just had them for anything and everything that you wanted, but obviously the more that you put in, you get a whole stack of tools that was running in. So this has consolidated that into fewer tools that as John said, more like a bit of a gateway into things, and then you install the agent toolkit, which has all the various skills that you want, and it uses that. So the other thing that's a bit different is the other MCP servers you could run locally, and this one you don't, and it is only in Northern Virginia and Frankfurt as well. So if you've got some people that are uncomfortable with where the inference is running and data sovereignty, so so you've gone from things that you could run locally or in your AWS account in a container or something, to something that you're running through Amazon, and only in the same regions that Kiro is running. So
well, that's interesting. So what data would it be getting then when you're making calls to it?
Well, probably just like your inference data. calls and
Yeah,
things like that. So
there's not going to be anything
it's-
particularly sensitive in an MCP call, because a lot of it is just give me information about thing. So anything that your agent says to the MCP that says, I want to learn about the prices of such and such a server, about T3s in Frankfurt, for argument's sake, it will know that you've asked that. But I don't think there's really anything particularly sensitive that will go over that kind of MCP. You do have to be a little bit careful with third-party MCPs, because some of them, you could put serious data through that. If Stripe, for instance, came out with an MCP or something, you'd want to be really, really careful with something that goes anywhere near payment gateways, just as an example. Other payment providers exist, but Stripe is the one that comes to mind, because obviously I'm sure they're grateful for that. But, that kind of thing. With the AWS ones, there's not a huge amount of really sensitive stuff it's going to do over the MCP, because all the MCP does is it tells the agent how to do stuff as opposed to doing it itself.
Yeah, and it's just limiting to your AWS API calls, basically. But again, it's more, if it's not running locally, you're going to have some people that are going to it needs to run in my region. I don't want it to run out of there. Can I run it locally? So yeah, it just means you're going to have some of those discussions with security teams that are very much, want to do everything by the book and not flexible. And
do you think AWS will roll it out to more locations, or do you think that's likely where it will continue to run from?
I'd be surprised if it didn't turn up in Sovereign Cloud at some point.
Yeah, and there are potentially some things that I learned last week that I can't say.
NDA'd. Yeah, let's not have you breaching your confidentiality clauses as an AWS ambassador. We nearly got John breaching his confidentiality clauses as a community builder, but didn't quite get him to do it on air. Anyway, okay. Well, so that's the AWS MCP server. Perhaps not as good as its predecessors, but hopefully we'll start to see some of that functionality coming back in future.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the agents that might end up using the MCP server. Perhaps not the first one, but this next article is all about AWS Security Agent, which I think we've spoken about before. But this particular feature announcement is that AWS Security Agent has added verification scripts for pen test findings. I think we spoke about the fact you can use it for penetration testing before on the podcast, but now these verification scripts have been added. So John, thoughts on this?
I like anything that gives you here's exactly what I did, run this, prove my finding, because anything done by an agent, and to be honest, anything done by a junior engineer or even any other engineer at all, realistically, if it's going out to a client, should be checked. Okay. You can't have, the agent said this, cool, send it. No, I'm going to go ahead and check that, because it might be this weird edge case. It might have found something in a slightly odd place. It might be doing something a bit weird. I want to go and validate this. So what it's got now is, rather than a series of reproduction steps that it was producing, is that I went here, I clicked this, I put this enter in, I fuzzed this box, I did kind of whatever. It now generates a script that you can go and actually look at. So if you still like code and scripting, which I know is weird now in the age of agents doing all of your coding for you. I know the idea of looking at code is odd and scary now, but I quite like that. And I still like the ability to go, run, go read download the script, go read it, configure the environment variables, and then test it yourself. So I like that. I like that quite a lot, because it makes your life validating things a lot easier. It also means that you can pass, here's exactly what was done, to someone else disconnected, and they can look at it and they can run it and they can prove it as well. So I like this. It's a little thing, but it's a useful one for those that do pen tests.
What are your thoughts on this, Jason? Have you tried it yet?
No, not this one. But it's interesting. The general concept with their frontier agents is, it'll tell you the things, but it won't do the things. And that was, one thing again from last week, talking to the people, they are very keen to not touch anything, at least yet. Vague ideas down the line that may change, because these things are changing rapidly. But yeah, I mean, the other thing that I can sort of see with this is, like, it really sort of fits in with, DevSecOps principles, where if you've got your security person that might run this and then hand off any changes to your ops person to actually do the implementation, and you've got that working between your shared artifacts. So there's that, and then you've got that artifact there as well, the proof that this is what I did to improve my security posture. And so I think it's good, it's interesting, it's another step forward in the security agent tool that gives you something to proactively do.
Yeah, and these steps seem to be happening at quite a pace at the moment. As
certainly quicker than I can keep up, because every time I read something about a security agent, I think, we should start offering like cut price pen tests via security agent. And then another announcement comes on and went, I've got that good idea about we should start offering, it's not full check crest accredited and all that jazz, but we can do like vuln scans, and we can do sort of basics. And then another announcement comes out and I go, I've got that great product. And then we still done nothing with it.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely sounds like a very interesting thing to either, get yourself in line pre, a full-on, pen test from a security team. And then, keeping things in place, in between your security audits.
Yeah. You want to know about these things before the testers, really, don't you? So the more you can do yourself ahead of time to remediate any issues before the real life.
Well, we've said that about this generally, haven't we? It's one of those things that if you can find the low-hanging fruit, to use a horrible business term, before you go and pay for the expensive pen testing, then you're going to get much more value out of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, sticking with the topic of agents, the next article is an article on the DevOps and Developer Productivity blog about how AWS DevOps Agent uses multi-agent reasoning to find root causes. DevOps Agent, again, spoken about this on the podcast before. It can handle incidents for you. It can respond to incidents and look for root causes and potentially even remediate those incidents for you. But if it's going to be doing that, you're going to want to make sure it's doing the right things. So I guess this article is helping you to reassure yourself that it is doing the right things. So John, thoughts on this, the multi-agent reasoning for DevOps Agent?
Yeah, so multi-agent reasoning is, again, this is one of those, it's like MCPs for me 6 months ago. I don't quite understand it. So give it 6 months and I'll be an expert, but I don't quite understand it. I think the idea is, rather than it being one agent, it works kind of like the coding agents have started to. You get these sub-agent processes where it delegates this, that, or the other to them. They go off and do it. And then you have this kind of top-level agent that's orchestrating everything. And then you have a top-level human that's orchestrating several coding agents doing exactly that. So now I have an entire team of agents working for me, apparently, which is just funny. And I think that's more of the same here. So what it's kind of doing is there's this living map of your infrastructure, as they've called it, which is, the infrastructure as code, resource explorer, CI/CD pipelines, various bits and pieces. It builds up a knowledge graph, which we will probably talk about in the next article as well, knowledge graphs generally. And then it learns that into here's where I am, here's what I'm dealing with, here's where I can go and look for stuff, and I can go and parse various logs, and I can look at metric data, and I can kind of see what's working and what's going on. That's really useful. That's really powerful, because it then feeds this incident lifecycle concept that they've got, which is triage, investigate, mitigate, and prevent, which again is kind of pretty standard SRE stuff, to be honest. They've called it DevOps agent rather than SRE agent, I think, because every SRE in creation would come for them, but that's one of those things, isn't it? It's a funny one, but the idea is you triage the active incident, you investigate the active incident, you mitigate it, and then you prevent it from happening again by root cause analysis and sort of all the rest of it. And having something out there that's going to help do that for you at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're bleary-eyed or on the wrong time zone, and you're not really there, and then the agent's gone, I've looked at all of the available data and it's this. Cool, thanks. And just knowing that it's not just sort of gone, oh, it's over there, and it's gone through a structured process and it's learnt about the environment, and you've not had to pay for vector databases and RAG and do lots of training yourself. It's kind of done that for you. I think that's really powerful.
What are your thoughts on this, Jason? I guess relevant in your space as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got one of our guys who is just like definitely swimming in the Kool-Aid for DevOps agent, and using that with one of his customers. He's loving it. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm just looking back at photos from slides from last week, and yeah, they were sort of discussing this sort of thing where it will go and work out when does it need to use multi-agents to go and do things in parallel to serve things? When does it just run the single agent to go through? And things like it's an always on service as well. So but you're only paying for it when it's actually sort of triaging something. So it's always on, it's learning what you're doing, and getting smarter about your environment. And then so now when it does come across an incident, having those multiple agents go out and look for the goal seeking. I'm just looking over at one of the slides there. Sorts of things it looks at is like, we changed something, our callers changed something, we bumped into some limit, a component of our systems failed, or something we depend on failed. Checks all those things and tries to recommend how to fix. But yes, again, it doesn't actually do anything, because the teams that put that out are saying like, yes, not yet. We just want to give you the information, but we're not actually going to to fix or potentially make worse anything.
Yeah, that's a fairly high trust position that you've got to get to. You've got to really, really trust the thing that it's found, 80, 90, 100% of the time. It's found the right thing, it's recommended the right thing, and that has actually worked before you start letting it loose on stuff. Because, I can fix this. Your database is overloaded. I should just truncate it, and then it won't be overloaded anymore. I mean, true, it won't be, but don't do that.
And how quick can it do that to you as well? That's it can do the right thing a lot quicker than you. It can do the wrong thing a hell of a lot quicker than you. So yeah, it's definitely a trust level that we still need to get to with these tools. And I think the teams are very keen to make sure that they earn that trust by telling us what they found before they start to do some things.
Yeah, and once you've started using it, I guess, if it was right 100% of the time on, more than one incident, you need to have a bit of a back catalogue of incidents where it was right, and, analyze that data yourself. Was it ever wrong? If it was wrong, how wrong, and how catastrophic would that have been if it had been allowed to do these things autonomously? And I guess that's the feedback that AWS are going to be looking for from customers as well, as to, would you trust it yet? How good has it been?
I'm sure it's possible to make it do fixes, but not by itself, by a bit of jiggery pokery, a bit of jury rigging, because I would think that you could listen to the end of an investigation on EventBridge and then trigger something in SSM from there, and then you've done a bit of deterministic stuff yourself to go, here's the input data, and I've pre-rolled a load of runbooks or whatever, and it's like, I can match that one. So you could probably kludge it a bit.
It's quite tricky.
Probably intentionally to stop people like me from doing that.
Yeah. Well, like, my colleague Tynes, he tried to do things like that, and it was he did not have much in the way of success. Even just getting it to try and write logs, it wouldn't, because that's changing something. Just writing logs, so it would tell you. It's I mean, it's it can now talk to MCP servers, so
that's incoming only, though, I think. So that's more for connections to things like PagerDuty or whatever, I think is what that's for.
Yeah, so it's sort of, pulling in, and that sort of changed. But yeah, at the moment, you do need to really try very hard to get it to do, like, change anything. If not nigh on impossible. So
yes,
well, it's probably for the best.
But yet again, another thing that I want to play with and put into some of our product offerings, because again, we're an SRE team, we're a platform team, we do 24/7 support, and I'd love to have this kind of baked in, but our alerting mechanism I still don't think is supported, because it's one of those, it comes through this external URL monitoring, and I think CloudWatch does that now, but not from enough regions that we kind of can use that yet. Hopefully that'll come soon. And then we've got, routes into the system, and then there's still a lot of human going, let me look at that. So if I can cut all of that out, if I can get the triggering right, I'll be very happy. Yeah.
Well, things like where, times create a system where, like, the triggers then from that kick off DevOps agent, so that then when he goes in to act on the alarms, DevOps agent's already been looking in as like, here's what I found.
That's exactly what you want, because in the 10 minutes it's taken you to, let's take the 3 a.m. incident as an example. In the 10 minutes it's taken you to go, smash your phone on the floor because it's screaming at you, then wake up and go, it's actually an incident, then validate that, site's down or whatever, then trudge your way over to your laptop, and then slap yourself in the face 3 times to wake up, turn the laptop on, start looking at things. It's gone off and done all of that, and you've gone, okay, button.
Yeah, it's like, yes, all right, that's cool. Validate, act on. Sweet. Thank you, DevOps.
Interesting insight into John's wake-up process when he's on call there. So document that and share it with other SREs who may benefit from
punch phone, slap self,
3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
But I think that, like, the big thing is, like, these are just moving so quickly. Security agent, DevOps agent, all those things just rolling out very, very quickly.
Well, speaking of things moving quickly, that's a nice segue into our final article about Amazon Quick. So this is an article on the AWS AI blog. The title is Transforming Professional Work, How Amazon Quick Turns Document Creation from Hours into Minutes. And we have gone feet first into Amazon Quick and rolled that out in Logicata after a trial where I managed to generate 22 case studies in a matter of minutes from a repository of project documentation in 2 different formats: the format required in the AWS APN and a format required to publish it publicly on the website. And that for me was quite a revelation, given that we'd probably written 6 case studies in 6 years prior to that, and I did 22 in a day. So it's kind of like, art of the possible here with these tools, and it's kind of, I'd played around with ChatGPT before and Microsoft Copilot because we use 365. The results had been decidedly average, I have to say. But when I started using Quick, it's like, wow, this is fantastic. And then when you start doing things like hooking in MCP servers, which we've already spoken about on this episode, then these tools start to become really powerful. But John, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know you've been using it quite a bit too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Quick. generally, right? Once you've got the desktop configured and working and you've got your knowledge graph building, and this is sort of the point we're making around DevOps Agent as well, is they're doing the same kind of thing. They're building a knowledge graph, which if you're unfamiliar with graph databases, is basically how social networks work. It's not necessarily rows and columns of data. It's nodes and connections, or nodes and vertices, or whatever the technical term actually is. You've got a node for a thing, and then another thing is another node, and then there's data on how those two things are connected. So if you go and look at your quick knowledge graph, it will say Carl, John talks to on Slack and Restream and various other things. They have lots of sort of connections between us, and then you store data on each of the nodes, and you store data on the connections as well. And that's what a knowledge graph is. So it's starting to learn how you communicate with things, how companies you talk to, how you do that, where you live. Not where you live in terms of like your house, where you live in terms of, you know, where you do all of your work. So it'll know that I send, I think, more memes than actual work in Slack. But, you know, that's half my job. Half my job is the meme man, which I think I'm being deposed, but there we go. And it's really, really good. The chat-based editing is okay. I find I'm quite picky with it sometimes. The Word document stuff I've not really played with. The PDFs, I feel a little bit mixed about, because I've actually built a tool to turn our wiki documents into branded PDFs that do the contents pages and sort of all the rest of it. And that works well enough now that we can just, for the most part, throw documents at it and you get this nice looking PDF. I do suspect I might be better off with my time not doing that anymore and just saying, quick, let's just write a skill to do that, because that's just going to be better and more reliable, and rather than, you know, having to fight with Wheezy Print or Zelatex or whatever, because they're just so painful. I'm generally, I'm a big fan of Quick, right? I've got it doing an awful lot for me because I struggle with executive function, as most engineers, I think, do, because most of us aren't neurotypical. And I struggle with executive function. So I've outsourced most of my executive function to Quick. It tells me what I need to do in the morning. It tells me what I haven't done at lunchtime. And then it tells me how well I did at the end of the day and tracks what I need to do tomorrow. And that's really useful, right? It's giving me scorecards fairly regularly. It's doing my stand-up stuff for me fairly regularly. It's helping me prep for meetings. And it's really proactive in terms of looking at your calendar and doing all those sorts of things. And as I say, the document creation is really, really good. It's able to take in vast amounts of data and do quite a lot with it, which is really good as well. The gripe I have is when you stop using the kind of packaged version, as I'm going to call it, which is free and then plus, I think, is, you know, you go to quick.amazon.com to sign up. That is really smooth because you go in, you download it, you sign your account up, you can have a team in there, and, you know, that all works. That's really well. That's really great. When you then go to the professional and the enterprise tiers, that runs through the console. And because I think I was a horrible person in a past life and my karma is still trying to catch up, that is done through QuickSight still. So it's hooked into QuickSight in the console. And yeah, okay, you look for Quick and it's Quick now, and there's a little bit of QuickSight remnant still in there. But the result of which is it's incredibly painful to configure if you're anywhere other than North Virginia. Because, and this is what sucked so much, right? There's about 4 different ways you can authenticate into Quick. And there's good ways and bad ways, right? You can use IDC, which is what you probably should do. You can use federated IAM. You can use direct users, and then there's a 4th thing. But if you want to use IDC, you have to put it in the same region as your IDC tenant. Fine, okay. So you do that. The desktop, however, is only supported if Quick itself is in North Virginia, right? But you can't put it in North Virginia and use IDC if your IDC isn't in North Virginia. And ours isn't, right? It's in London. The result of which is if you want to have, and it gets worse, because in order to use the desktop as pro user or an enterprise user, you must have some sort of SAML OIDC configuration. You must. You can't use direct Quick users. So you log in with your Quick user and then you log in with your SAML user as well. That's fine if it's IDC based, because then you can tell IDC to kind of handle all of that interaction for you, but only if you're in North Virginia, because that's the only place that it's all supported where it all kind of hooks up and works together. The result of which is for anyone not in the North Virginia region, for all of these things is you have to set Quick up in North Virginia. It has to go there. And then that gets to your point, Jason, earlier around data sovereignty and control and all the rest of it, is it has to go into North Virginia. Sure, it's in your own AWS account, but it has to go into that American region. So then you have to have a federated IAM user, and it is an IAM user still. You could probably do it through a role, but the user is just it's the easiest way of doing it. And then you have to configure the SAML configuration for something like M365 or Okta or Auth0 or whoever. And there's a handful of them that I think are supported. There's not an officially supported list, but if you look at the documentation, I think there's 4 that they've given you the examples for. So it's a safe bet that those are the 4 supported ones, and anything else is at your own risk, mate. Have fun. So then you have to go and configure that to get the desktop to work. And to get the desktop to work for everyone, you have to configure it, and then you have to add it to the global profile, and then as an admin, and then anyone that wants to use it also has to add the app to their profile. It's so clunky, it's not even funny. So whilst the tool is phenomenal, and I just spent 5 minutes saying how much I like it, the setup experience for anyone outside of North Virginia is diabolical.
Could you use multi-region IDC?
I mean, maybe if you did a child IDC in North Virginia, yes, but then Amazon also really actively discourage you doing account level IDCs these days. So it's like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean the new where you can have a backup region for your IDC. You can.
I don't know, maybe, but I didn't investigate that. I got it working with federated IAM, and I'm leaving it the hell alone.
Yeah, don't change it again.
It works.
Because we're on iteration 3 now, and I keep losing all of my knowledge graph and everything. Although I've only been using it for a couple of weeks, to be fair. So, but it's amazing how much stuff when you start using these tools. It's amazing how much kind of configuration and knowledge and skills and everything you build up in there. And when you lose it, you're kind of like, oh, I've only lost a week's worth of stuff, but it was actually quite a lot of stuff. So yeah. And it is all still on my machine, and I started investigating. Do I just copy all of that over? And Quick told me not to because it might break it. And I thought, I'll just start again then. But what about yourself, Jason? Have you been? I know you've been drinking the Quick Kool-Aid, I'm sure, at the Ambassador Summit. But are you a user yet?
Waterboarding the Kool-Aid, as Brian.
Yes, waterboarding it. No, I installed it on my phone, and then I got a email saying, "Oh, your trial has expired."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh yeah, I installed that, didn't I?" So no, I have not used it. However, yeah, it was like there was a session on Quick, but every session they were everyone was talking about how awesome Quick is, how good their workflow is, and their life has just gotten so much better since Quick came about. So
I'm not sure I agree that my life's any better. I think I do more work, but I think I'm working just as hard.
It enables you to spin more plates faster.
Oh no, I'm sure that it'll make your grass green, and it'll halve the pet fuel consumption of your cars, and like that.
I could do with that. My van weighs 2.5 tons.
Yeah, ask Quick. Everyone said, and like they even went to the lengths of saying like, oh, Andy Jassy loves Quick. We put up. So yes, but no, everyone at Summit was drinking the Quick Kool-Aid. So
we had the same definitely in London. We had the same in London. I think there must have been an internal edict gone out to all AWS employees saying, wax lyrical about Quick at every opportunity. But it is good, I have to say. It is good. So whether it's an edict or whether it's their genuine personal experience, admin issues aside, as a user, a desktop user creating documents, etc., which is what this original article was all about, it's really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, it definitely had me wanting to check it out. So
the phone experience is not great. The phone app, it's quite limited. It's really the power of it is in the desktop app, and then when you hook it into all of your other kind of enterprise data sources, etc. Which is why we went down the route of doing it in our own AWS account, because the knowledge graph is in the the packaged versions, as John described them, is backed up to a location in AWS that you have no control over. And the knowledge graph does contain personally identifiable information, people's names, how they, how they're connected to you and that kind of thing. So, so I think it is, if you're going to use it in anger, it is probably worth looking at doing it the kind of pro or enterprise way, but no harm in giving it a quick trial on the package versions.
Yeah, the challenge with the enterprise and pro versions as well, apart from my particular gripes, just, had I known ahead of time, yes, I probably would have considered multi-region IDC or what have you. But the other gripe is it's then significantly more expensive because you pay, and this is all public information, right? It's just on the pricing page. You pay, I think, $250 per month as an infrastructure fee to run it via the console on top of your user license fees. So it becomes quite expensive. But because it's in the console, so far as I could work out, you can use Amazon credits to pay for it. So although it won't get very far, because it's $250 a month. So unless you've got 8 credits and what have you, you're going to burn them quite fast.
I'm sure I've got another customer council survey somewhere. So $25. I keep doing those. It's a lot of customer council. It's 10 customer council surveys a month just to fund that fee. I don't think they come out at that rate, but
but it's sort of that discussion then is how much time does it save you, and
absolutely, yeah.
Can you get quick to do the customer council survey?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, is it saving you well over that $250 a month? And
easily averaged out across the organization for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's it's a relatively low amount of money. It's a large amount of money compared to the per user fee, but it's a very small amount of money compared to the efficiency gains it's going to bring us. And it kind of helps separate things out, because I was using Kiro for a lot of things that were not writing code, just because I could do them in Kiro, but it's not really the right place to do them. And of course, that costs money as well. So you're burning credits in Kiro. So to separate out things like document creation, stuff that you do on your desktop that's not writing code, that's much better placed within Quick Desktop rather than using Kiro, even though you could do a lot of these things in Kiro. Kiro's kind of a sledgehammer to crack a nut, really. It's writing scripts to do everything, and kind of think, well, maybe that's a bit of overkill, but if it gets the job done, I'll do it and I'll burn some credits. Whereas now we can separate these things out properly and connect the two, although I haven't figured that part out yet. Hand off tasks from Quick to Kiro.
I haven't done that yet. I'm a big Kiro user as well, and thus far, if it's something that's been, well, this is code generation, this, that, I've been manually going and looking at Kiro, and I tend to use the IDE for it because, again, I prefer that interface. I do a lot of the spec-based development, and again, you have to do that in that interface. And I also will go and review the code, weirdly. Again, call me old-fashioned for looking at code that things are making, but I do go and do that, and doing that in the console is horrible. Doing that in a CLI is horrible. Doing it in an IDE is better. I do wonder when we're going to start getting to these stories of, people using X number of thousands of dollars a month of AI spend, because we're starting to see that now. And I mean, my AI spend is, I've not got overages turned on, and my kind of usage is reasonably static now, but I'm Kiro Pro Plus, which is $40 plus VAT, and I'm Quick, which is $20 for my user, and then my portion of the infrastructure fee. So it's like, Jesus Christ, how much AI am I using now?
Yeah, but as Jason said, then you compare that against the cost. If you're now doing the work of 2 people, then it's a fraction of the cost, and maybe you're doing the work of more than 2 people. But the real question, whenever we talk about these things, comes down to, when is this going to start actually costing more money? Because it's all credit based, or token based, and we're all getting hooked on these things at the moment and talking about how great they are, and then all of a sudden it's likely that the price will just go up as we become more dependent on them, and then we won't be able to kind of reverse out of them, because we've built built so many skills and so on and so forth that half of our workflow is now in the tool.
So what you're saying is we're going to need methadone, but for AI tools.
Or just go back to doing everything manually again, which of course nobody's going to do, are they?
Shudder.
But it's interesting, John, you're saying, like, you go back and review all the code, and like, again, that had one of the sessions was by a distinguished engineer from Amazon, she was talking about how they moved along from 2 pizza teams now down to sometimes 1 pizza team, and the way that they've been using Kiro to do their dev, but their teams are held responsible for the code and knowing what the code does. There's no like, oh, AI wrote it, I don't really know what it does. It's like, no, you are responsible. So yeah. And
bring back the second pizza for reviews. The code review pizza. You need to bring back the second pizza just for reviewing stuff.
Yeah. So it's interesting times.
Absolutely interesting times, and it's interesting to see where it's all going to pan out. But on that note, we have reached the end of our time for season 5, episode 21 of Logicast. So just remains for me to thank you very much, Jason, for joining us from the other side of the world in what I am guessing is your evening. So great to have you back on the podcast, sharing your insights, despite the jet lag from the Ambassador Summit. And John, great to see that there's still some daylight coming through your window with the camper van parked directly outside. Thank you as always for your insights. Thank you as well for listening. If you are indeed still listening, if you enjoyed it, please do give us a like, a rating, follow us on YouTube. And we are available to download from wherever you download your podcasts. So that is all for season 5, episode 21 of Logicast. We will be back next week with another episode for you. Until then, thanks for listening and see you again next time.